First of all, I'd like to thank Jim, Diane, and Lynn. If you all are here, would you mind standing up, those of you who are featured in the video? My name is Carly Burton, and I am a Grief Support Services volunteer here at Samaritans. And I'm going to tell a little story about my sister. My sister Betsy was 7 years old when I was born. She would always giggle when she told the story of the morning I was born, how she and our other sister Amy had woken up early, and while Amy had padded off to the bathroom, Betsy had gone to our parents' room. To her surprise, they weren't there. And alarmed, she ran off to tell Amy. Amy looked at her older and wiser sister with shock. Bets loved to relive that surprised and anxious look on Amy's 5-year-old face, and then the delight when they learned that our parents were at the hospital and that they were going to have a little brother or sister soon. After that, they ate their Frosted Flakes in front of the TV and waited for word about their new baby sibling. My sister Betsy was 12 when she took the training wheels off my two-wheeler bike and taught me how to ride it. I can still remember watching in the garage while she found the wrench out of my dad's gray toolbox, loosened the bolts to release the wheels, and then guided me down the driveway on the bike. She clapped and whooped when I finally caught my balance. She was genuinely delighted at contributing and sharing in my success. My sister Betsy was 14 years old and a 9th grader when she carried a rope to school in the bottom of her backpack. Though I didn't know it at the time, she had actually thought about suicide and carried the rope because it gave her a sense of security in case she needed it. My sister Betsy was almost 22 years old when she boarded a flight to Oakland, California, and settled in the Bay Area for what would be the rest of her life. She had never lived further than a few hours from our small town in Connecticut. She spent the summer caring for a 3-year-old boy and his 6-month-old twin brother and sister. These kids and their parents would become a second family to her out there. After the summer, she took a job as an assistant kindergarten teacher and continued her trajectory as a teacher and caregiver. Her career, both as a teacher and later as a psychologist, working with young moms and their babies, left an indelible mark on countless families, students, and children, including me. Her ability to connect and communicate with little ones is something that I think about often as I walk through my own parenting journey of our 5-year-old daughter, Clea, and our now 4-year-old foster daughter, Carmen. At Safe Place, we read a poem at the end of every meeting entitled, "We Remember Them." There is one line that is particularly resonant with me. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. I think about it often when I think about our little ones and how much they would have adored their Aunt Betsy and how much their Aunt Betsy would have adored them. Yet, when Betsy first died, I was, like so many other survivors, lost and adrift. Joys were suddenly a foreign concept. I was heartbroken and devastated that I no longer had my oldest sister in this world. I was mired in sorrow at the loss of her wisdom and her laughter and her empathy. I couldn't believe that I would never see her at the opposite end of a tennis court or hear her voice at the opposite end of the phone. I was mystified as to how this could have happened to me and to my family after just having lost my dad less than 2 years earlier. It felt as if I had been dropped into a battlefield, and I didn't know how I was supposed to fight or even what I was really fighting for, which was actually the most damning. Safe Place didn't save me at first. I went to that first meeting and sullenly and angrily sat down among the other survivors. I could barely speak and hardly raised my head. There was the man that talked about his brother driving his car into the lake, and the mother talking about the loss of her daughter, and the woman who had just learned her best friend had died of suicide. This did not feel like solace for me. This was just a morass of pain and disbelief and sorrow and anger and guilt. What do I need this for? How can this help? I can't fix their pain. I can't even fix my own. And so I didn't go back to Safe Place again right away. But I was struggling. I was suffering from all the signs of grief that I now tell survivors are totally normal. Lack of concentration, lack of sleep, anxiety, dread about the other shoe dropping, guilt, so much guilt, and anger, not at Betsy, but at the situation. How on earth could this have happened? Why us? Why her? How could we be expected to go on? How could I move forward? How could I integrate this horrifying and horrible experience into my life and keep going? It seemed utterly and completely impossible. And it felt that way, especially when I considered the days of my future unfurling in front of me like a never-ending road of sadness. So I stopped thinking about that amorphous future, and I focused on just the moments in front of me and how I would navigate my way through those finite bits of time. And I went back to Samaritans to volunteer. I'm going to learn from this and help others, I thought. This is what Betsy would want me to do. I will volunteer on the helpline. I was about 15 minutes into my first helpline volunteer training when I started to cry, uncontrollably, an ugly, messy cry. How was I supposed to help these folks on the helpline when I couldn't help my own sister? I was a fraud. I got up to leave the training, sniffling, and was quickly intercepted by the Grief Support Services Director, Kim. What did Kim do? She befriended me. She sat and she listened to my story. She passed me tissues as I gulped through the sobs and told her about Betsy. She asked me why I wanted to volunteer and how I thought it would help. Then she told me about Safe Place, again. And she said that if I wanted to volunteer, that was good, but maybe I should consider volunteering through Grief Support Services and helping other survivors. Maybe that would be a better fit. But first, I should go to a few meetings, get reacclimated, and see if I could see the benefit of this group that no one wants to be a part of. So I did, and that is when Safe Place saved me. I started going to the meetings regularly. They were small and intimate. And I started to learn more about grief following suicide, how it manifested itself, what it felt like, and I watched how others were coping and enduring and moving forward, both the participants and the facilitators. At each meeting, it felt more helpful. It is difficult to describe how, but I began to have a feeling of connection, belonging, safety, and it started to feel like a home to me. I wanted to go to each meeting. It was a special time, a time that I guarded because it was the time when I could talk about Bets and try to make sense of her death and her life while actively remembering her. My sister Betsy was 38 years old when she died at the Golden Gate Bridge. Some people find this place poetic, this golden aperture over the vast Pacific Ocean. Some find it beautiful when the bridge crests above the San Francisco fog. For me, this bridge is a visible reminder of her pain and also a visible reminder of her life. My sister taught me a lot about how to live and how to be in this world, how to care for others, how to be a strong person, both physically and emotionally, how to show love through humor, and how to have hope that things will get better. When she first died, I worried almost incessantly that I would forget her, that I needed to preserve her memory and her story. Now, almost 13 years out from her death, I don't worry about that anymore. She is inside me. Even though the specific textures and visuals of memories may have faded, I feel that she is more a part of me than ever. I am lucky that I have Samaritans to thank for that. Thank you for being here.